Have you ever wondered why we talk so much about capitalism, class, and revolution? A lot of it goes back to one man, Karl Marx. But before he became the intellectual giant we know today, he was just a kid growing up in a world on the brink of massive change. Let's travel back to 1818, to the city of Trier in Prussia. This wasn't the Germany we know today. It was a collection of kingdoms, and the dust from the Napoleonic Wars was just settling. Old feudal traditions were clashing with the new energy of the Industrial Revolution. Imagine a world where monarchies were making a comeback, but at the same time, factories were starting to pop up, changing life forever. This was the backdrop of Karl Marx's childhood. Marx wasn't born into poverty. His father was a well-respected lawyer, a man of the Enlightenment who believed in reason, justice, and education. Their home was a place of lively debate and intellectual curiosity. So, from a young age, Karl was surrounded by big ideas. But living in Prussia, he also saw the limits of freedom. Government censorship and bureaucracy were everywhere. This early experience planted a seed in his mind. The constant tension between the power of the state, the desire for individual freedom, and the struggle for a comfortable life. As a student at the Trier Gymnasium, Marx was a standout. He wasn't just good at his studies. His early writings already showed a deep concern for society. He believed that a person's true purpose was tied to the well-being of the entire community. A powerful idea for a teenager, right? In 1835, his father sent him to the University of Bonn to study law, the practical, respectable path. But Karl's heart wasn't in it. His passion was for philosophy and literature, and he was drawn to the rebellious, intellectual spirit of student life. His time in Bonn was short but impactful. The real turning point came when he transferred to the University of Berlin in 1836. At that time, Berlin was the intellectual epicenter of Germany. And one name dominated every conversation: Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel's philosophy was complex, but his idea of the dialectic, that history moves forward through conflict and contradiction, was revolutionary. In Berlin, Marx fell in with a radical group known as the Young Hegelians. They were thinkers, writers, and rebels who took Hegel's ideas and turned them on their head. While Hegel saw the Prussian state as the peak of historical development, the young Hegelians used his dialectical method to critique religion, politics, and power itself. This was where Marx sharpened his intellectual weapons, learning to question everything and expose the contradictions hiding in plain sight. He wasn't just a student anymore. He was becoming a radical thinker. By 1841, Marx was ready to complete his education. He submitted his doctoral thesis to the University of Jena. And what did he write about? Not law, not politics, but ancient Greek philosophers who believed that everything, including human thought, originated from the material world. He argued that our reason and freedom aren't gifts from the gods, but products of our physical existence. This focus on materialism was a radical departure from the idealist philosophy of the time and would become the absolute foundation of his life's work. Think about the world as Marx was stepping into it. The Industrial Revolution was in full swing. Steam engines, factories, and railways were changing the landscape of Europe. Cities were exploding in size. This was the age of progress, but for every new factory, there were thousands of workers living in squalor. For every wealthy industrialist, there were countless families struggling to survive. Marx saw this firsthand. The incredible promise of technology stood in stark contrast to the immense human suffering it seemed to create. It was this fundamental contradiction between the potential for abundance and the reality of poverty that captured Marx's attention. He wasn't just observing it, he felt compelled to understand it, to explain it, and ultimately to change it. His early life, his education, and the turbulent times he lived in all came together, setting him on the path to develop one of the most powerful critiques of modern society ever written. So, from a boy in a provincial town to a radical philosopher in Berlin, Karl Marx was forged by the forces of his time. His journey was just beginning, and the ideas he would develop next would not only define his own life, but would also go on to shape the course of the 20th century and continue to fuel debates right up to this very day. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the mind of Karl Marx. If you found this fascinating and want to dive deeper into the ideas that shaped our world, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. We've got so much more to explore together. See you next time.